Hey guys, I'm Barton Scott, and today we're talking about coffee. Specifically, what mistakes I see everyone making and why you shouldn't be drinking Starbucks coffee and so many other coffees out there. I get it. I know the power of coffee. I do love coffee, but we're going to talk about how to drink coffee and how to not hurt your health in the process. So your morning coffee, people ask me this all the time. Should I drink coffee? How much coffee can I drink? We're all at one time or another addicted to coffee. And what you have to know is that drinking more than about a cup of coffee per day is going to deplete your adrenals. And because it's depleting your adrenals, it's therefore depleting something we like to talk about a lot, which is minerals. Because when we talk about adrenals and adrenal hormones, so we have that idea over here, your adrenals, people are like, adrenal fatigue. Yes. So what's the solution there? Is it to not drink any coffee? Is it to meditate all day? Is it to take glandulars? What's the solution? And what I've realized is this waterfall analogy, right? So if you ever look over the waterfall, there's multiple pieces to the waterfall, multiple steps often. So it'll come off the top. And so I was in a hike out in Maui a couple years ago. And we were doing exactly this. We're going up to the third level of a waterfall and jumping off as a sort of, rite of passage. And so a big group of us, and very fun and super beautiful and lush and everything. And what I think about with our approach to health that anyone could take is if you think about fixing the things, for example, not fixing your hormones by replacing with hormones, but instead, what about the top of the waterfall? What about the most root cause is another way to say it. But I like the waterfall analogy, right? Because when you're there, you're looking up at the waterfall and you can see there's a dip and there's a dip and there's a dip. And so if you work on the third dip, so to speak, of the waterfall, you might be working on improving your hormones or having better ratios of hormones. Why don't we just improve our building blocks of the hormones? That's the question. And it's just, for most people, most companies out there, most solutions, not a very easy fix. So what I've realized, what I figured out, the whole core of the philosophy that I have with upgraded formulas is to fix that first step, the root cause, so that everything from top down improves, right? So when you get your mineral status right, it turns out, which we can do by testing and by taking supplements that actually are proven to work and show up on your next test results, so you have actual proof, which is that certainty, I think, is what a lot of us are after when we have questions, right? And so if that's not you right now, that will be you at some point. And if that is you, then there's also other people you need to take care of in your family, most likely. And so that was the case for me. And what I did was engineer some supplements, totally different technology using my background in engineering, to be able to create something that was actually going to work, right? Because none of us want to even think about losing someone close to us, much less our parents, especially if we had a good relationship there and we're lucky in that way, at least with one parent. And so I got super lucky. My mother, unfortunately, though, when I was in my early 20s, her health started to really fail and falter, and I helped her as much as I could, more than anyone else, really, but not enough. And so with this approach, this ultimately is what I realized years later that we needed. We needed to test in the right way, which we talk about in other videos. And from there, from that place of clear understanding, why we use hair, we cover that in other videos. Why blood can be a false flag, why it can be you on your best behavior. We do all of that in a lot of different videos and that we've put out for years now. So you can check that and go through our channels. But the thing is, once you've figured that out, it's a lot like, okay, what do I do next? And so you have to have supplements that essentially are so effective they can absorb without digestion. That's exactly what we do and what we've proven in clinical trials. So that's been published. So yeah, the interesting part about that then becomes, how does the body do it? That was one of the questions I asked. How does the body assimilate or ingest, drink in the digested food particles at step, let's say 100 out of 100 of your digestive process, right? So what am I saying there? I'm saying the way we engineer any man-made process really well is we look how the body has evolved over millions of years to do so. And so what I realized is the body at no point asks for multiple forms. It at no point goes, oh, like in the case of magnesium, oh, I have to have malate for my muscles and glycinate for sleep, and threonate crosses the blood-brain barrier. All of our products cross the blood-brain barrier. So all of our products cross the blood-brain barrier. And that's because I realized something was really important and set about looking for a way to make that happen. And eventually, after 3.5 years of struggle way back in 2015, I was able to figure out a solution and ultimately start upgraded formulas such that your red blood cells are a certain size, and the particles I was finding of just regular supplements that we're putting in our body were 5 to 8 times larger than that. And so what I was able to do was discover a way to have the particle size be smaller than that red blood cell, be smaller, right? And it was just like, yeah, how much smaller? I don't know. We had to play with that. But ultimately, we could see the results and we could feel the results. We could take someone that was in a panic state and have them feel more relaxed with the right supplement, and because they were absorbing it, and they could do that quickly. And so then became all this learning on the periodic table of elements. And what does every element do, and what are the combinations that matter most, and what are the ratios that the body, in case of hair testing, looks at, right? So that how to get from here to there, or how to rejuvenate yourself back to when you were really healthy, if you're lucky enough to have it in your life. I have some people might be thinking you've never really felt healthy, or you've always been overweight, or you've always felt like you've had brain fog. I personally felt like I had brain fog all the way up until probably 30 or so. And my health now in my 30s has gotten progressively better. The main tool I've used for that has been, again, the hair testing that we do, that you can see more on our website. It's amazing because it actually gives you a clear path forward on what to work on. And, we actually have a consultation. I find that one of the crazy things out there is that there's so many companies that offer testing, and the testing may be helpful, but it's usually not very helpful without a great consultation. And then, of course, supplements that work well, possibly diet changes, although I would say we've seen changes even without changes in diet. So, because in a lot of cases, people, just like I was eating a really good diet, and yet I was chronically deficient in something I was taking. I was chronically deficient in a type of magnesium. I was taking ZMA for a long time. I was taking magnesium glycinate for a long time. I was taking threonate for a long time. I was still chronically deficient in magnesium because the thing they all have in common is low absorption. So something can cross the blood-brain barrier and still be poorly absorbed. So if you take 100% of something, maybe 25 or 30% of it, if it's just about any supplement we've looked at, is not going to absorb beyond that. So, if you're paying, $100 for something, you're essentially getting like $25 of value, which really hurts. In some cases, you're getting far less, to be honest. And so I know that might be a shocking and somewhat painful truth, but the more painful thing is to continue not on a path toward, or to be on a path toward the same place, right? To be spinning your wheels because you're not absorbing what you should be absorbing, what you're taking, right? Because you're not absorbing what you're taking. So let's bring this back to coffee. Now, with some of this understanding, what we do and why this is such a unique approach, can you begin to see that, okay, well, if I'm taking something, if I'm drinking 4 cups of coffee a day, well, and also we can get into time of day for coffee, for example. Time of day for coffee is incredibly important. So if I do drink coffee, most people like me are very slow to very slow metabolizers. I'm slow, meaning not hyper fast at metabolizing not only caffeine, but the other molecules in coffee that can keep you alert and can affect your ability to sleep deeply. I don't mean be unconscious, I mean sleep deeply. I'm sure by now you know the difference, right? You've had some of those days where you can, maybe you look at your sleep tracker, you just look at your clock and you go, wow, I was in bed from 10 to 7, that's 9 hours. In 9 hours, I got, a very poor amount of quality sleep, it seems like, because if you're waking up and you're feeling fuzzy, feeling like, all right, let's take on the day, like enthusiastic, then, you're clearly not sleeping efficiently, right? You're not sleeping deeply. You're not getting deep sleep and staying there. So you want to come down to deep sleep and stay there for a long time. You want to get into REM sleep and be there for as long as you need to be there to clear out everything, to consolidate memory, all the good stuff. So when you think about coffee, think about timing, think about dose, but also think about what am I spending right? Because in the case of any stimulant, and I love coffee, by the way, I try to get an organic, fair trade, mold-free, pesticide-free coffee. And so that's not going to come from the average Starbucks. So this is one reason why you shouldn't drink Starbucks coffee. That's a huge one, right? So there's one thing you need to know about Starbucks coffee. And when I say Starbucks, I actually mean pretty much all chain coffee out there that's not organic and therefore not pesticide free, which is a real problem. Because you're thinking like it's a coffee bean. If you're not in this world of health that much, how deleterious, how big of a problem is this? And so when you spray crops, even from planes, often those plants are genetically modified so they can handle that spray. And now we're just dousing those things, and then you're taking that fruit, that coffee fruit, drying it and making coffee out of it, grinding it, roasting it, and that's what ends up in your coffee. So it's not even the coffee sometimes, it's the glyphosate, it's the other chemicals, it's the pesticides, right? Herbicides, fungicides, all these different things. And so when you think about that, there's a couple things to think about. One, that category of just bad things that are ride-along chemicals. So your ride-along chemicals are what I want you to think about when you think about consuming anything out in the wild. And so, yes, it's easier to make good choices at home, but like here's another choice that you need to think about when you're on the go. You need to have some sort of either a bamboo cup, which is better, at least than the plastic, or, it looks like a paper cup. You know that most of those paper cups are actually largely made of plastic. And what happens, right? You don't have to be a genius to understand that plastic, when heated, especially with a hot liquid that's sitting in there for an hour, it's starting to break down the actual cup, and you're actually starting to drink plastic. Terrible. When we talk about the hormones and we go, why am I fatigued? Why do I have brain fog? Why do I have gut issues? Why do I not have sex drive? All these things. I've been through all of these. I've been through thyroid dysfunction. I've been through Crohn's. I've been through everything I just mentioned. Really all in my 20s, honestly, was way worse health because I wasn't paying attention to these things. A lot of people weren't talking about them yet. And so what you can do is you can actually bring either a glass container, a metal to-go cup, a porcelain to-go cup is my favorite, and a silicone lid. And so just by giving the same person, even if you're drinking that same cup of coffee, and that's all you have, and like, okay, maybe you're going to drink up just a few sips and get rid of it, you're still doing a huge favor to yourself, because at least you're not getting all those ride-along chemicals from plastic/paper cup that you're after, or that you're often being given pretty much anywhere, right? So something to think about next time you're out.